Alright, so today we're going to be taking a deeper dive into exactly what type of souls there are among plants, animals, humans, and exactly what differentiates them all from one another. Now, first and foremost, a soul can be identified as to what types of faculties that it allows its user to perform. So, for example, the most basic of the souls, the vegetative souls, the souls that are embodied by plants, have only three faculties: the power to reproduce, the power to grow, and the power to take in nourishment. So the way that we identify these faculties is through two basic properties. We can either take a look at the ends, take a look at what is achieved, take a look at the process, or in the case of the human soul, we're able to use a process known as introspection, where we look inside ourselves and we analyze exactly what goes into our being, our actions, our life. So let's go and let's establish the three different types of souls, alright? You've got the vegetative soul, which I just went over as the plant soul, with its powers. Next you have the sensitive soul, which embodies animals. Now, the sensitive soul has the powers of the vegetative soul in addition to the sensitive powers. Now, these sensitive powers would include things like locomotion, sensation, and on a broader scale, the ability to interact with the environment more than just materially. Okay? They have a primitive form of memory. And then you have the rational soul, the human soul, which takes on the vegetative and the sensitive powers, but in this time, the rational soul also has the rational powers. And these rational powers are the power of will and intellect, meaning we have reasoning, we have the ability to freely choose. We are not victim to our instincts. The sensitive soul relies on instinct to generate action, and the rational soul relies on intelligence and reasoning to bring about action. So as I was saying, the human soul has the power of all three souls. It has the vegetative powers, it has the sensational powers, and it has the rational powers. So, the vegetative powers are, as we've mentioned, the most basic needs to sustain life. All right? And as a result of that, they are not controlled. They cannot be controlled by behavior. They cannot respond to our will. We cannot decide when we're hungry, all right? We cannot decide whether or not to grow. These are simple necessities to allow our soul to cultivate, to allow our soul to exist. All right? Now, moving on to the sensitive powers, what sets us apart from plants is most obviously the ability to move. Locomotion, all right? Appetition, the ability for us to feel desire. And sensation, the ability for us to react to our surroundings. So, if one guy comes up to me from across the street and slaps me across the face, I'm going to remember to run away when I see him again. When Harrison sees his crock pot, he knows damn well that he's going to be in for a rough night if he doesn't go to his friend's house and have dinner there. Animals have all the external senses. They have sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing. But as humans, we have all those five senses, and we've got the internal senses. Things like common sense, imagination, the memory. Now, these are called the internal senses because they are properties of our mind, of our intellect. And as we just covered, the sensitive soul does not have an intellect. Now, these external and internal senses work hand in hand, in the sense that once we look at something, once we experience something, all right? Let's use an apple, for example, all right? You can use all of your five senses to gather information about the apple. It tastes like an apple. It looks red. It smells succulent. You can really hear the crunch when you take a bite of this apple. It feels smooth on the outside, and spongy on the inside. I don't know what an apple actually feels like on the inside. How would you describe that? That's irrelevant. Anyway, so once we take in the information from all of these senses, the imagination cultivates them into actual workable images that our common sense can then combine into the form of the object. That is how we take in information. We can't take the apple and shove it into our brain, because then you would be dead. All right? You're only able to take in the immaterial, the form. So the common sense modifies all of these inputs to create the complete form of the apple. And after you have that complete form, it's called a percept. And this percept is modified by the imagination and the memory. The memory takes in account the time. So after the memory has done its work, after the imagination has performed all of its associations, you are now left with the phantasm. And the phantasm is what is then stored in your mind. The phantasm is what you recall when you want to think or reminisce about this object. Now, because we are humans, we have a unique imagination. Our imagination allows us to take the forms and the phantasms that have been stored within our mind and distort them to our will. So, if you wanted to imagine a lemon and a pie, your imagination would be able to take the forms of both and try to imagine what a lemon pie would taste like, feel like, smell like, etc. So now that you have phantasms stored in your mind, your memory allows you to look back on those phantasms and sort of create a timeline about how your life has been progressing. So you're able to store phantasms of what you did when you woke up this morning, what you had for breakfast, the ride to school, what you did first period, how much of a relief lunch was, how much you hated doing history homework. And you're able to look back on these, place them on a timeline, and analyze your effect in life through time. You're able to analyze the passage of life. And that gives us our self-awareness. That gives us the ability to know that we exist in this world with an aspect of time to our lives, with an aspect of age to our lives. And that's what gives us our consciousness. The ability to know that our actions affect the world around us in a fundamental way. Alright, and well, that brings us to the self-evaluation. If you'd kindly scan this QR code, it'll take you right there. And as always, enjoy life. Thanks for your time, Mr. Petruccio.